What's going on, guys? It's Winter Soldier, and today I'm bringing you part 2 of the Improve Yourself series. Now, hopefully you guys watch my video on how to improve your play using logs. That'll help you compare your performance against other people with similar item levels. If you haven't checked that video out, make sure you go check that out, because it'll definitely be useful for your rotation. I know it helped me out a lot this week. So this is part 2, and this is how to deal with custom sims. And so what you're going to need for this is you're going to need the add-on pawn, which you've watched my other videos, you know I recommend for stat weights. And then you're going to need to download Simcraft, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. So what you're going to do is when you have Simcraft downloaded, your start screen should look something like this. Now, there is a Simcraft add-on that you can get in World of Warcraft, but the only purpose that that serves is it will give you an import string straight from your character. So it's kind of like a one less step, but it's up to you whether you want to get it or not. I don't use it, so I'm going to take you from my perspective, and I'll show you the steps I take when I'm using Simcraft. So first you want to go into import, and this is going to look through the World of Warcraft armory. So you see I have mine set to Storm Rage. Type in my character name, okay, and then I'm going to hit import. And what that's going to do is that's going to grab the most recent incarnation of your WoW armory. And a quick way to check to make sure it's got all the right stuff on is you can actually scroll down and you can look through the gear that you have on to make sure it all matches up. Now, the one thing I should say is Simcraft doesn't do a great job with trinkets. I mean, you can sim them individually, and you can sim your overall DPS with them on, but don't count these towards your stat weights. So what first you do is you import, like we did. Then you're going to go over to Options. It's going to start in Global, but first we're going to go to Scaling. You're going to click Enable Scaling. And for Hunters, you want Agility, Crit, Haste, Mastery, Versatility, and Weapon DPS, because those are all the main stats you can get as a Hunter. Okay? Then you're going to go over to here, and this is going to be what type of fight the boss is. So by default, it's set to Patchwork, which means it's essentially just attacking a dummy. You're not moving at all. You're standing still. It's the best DP, single target DPS you can do. Over here, we set the number of enemies to 1, so I'm going to have 1 raid boss. And you can mess with the options over here, but that's not as important. And so once you have the scaling set, and the boss numbers set, you're going to come over here, you're going to hit simulate. Depending on how good your computer is, it can take a couple seconds to a couple minutes, because it has to run through all the iterations, including scaling all of your stats. So it can take a little while. My computer takes maybe about 30 seconds to a minute. And what it's doing now is it's simulating your possible damage outcomes and how each stat would affect your damage if they scaled it up or down. And then at the end, it's going to give you a pretty detailed report about your damage versus the Patchwork fight. So first, I simmed this Patchwork fight, which is single target, no movement, pretty much if you were to just be attacking a test dummy. So this is what I use as my single target metric, so this will be good on fights like Normal and Heroic Nathendra, Normal and Heroic Ursoc, where there's nothing for you to cleave. It's all purely single target damage. So the test is going to come up like this. And so according to Simcraft, I should be doing 307,624 DPS, which actually is that's not your ceiling. So if you look at this and you're like, oh man, my character will only do 307,000, that's not true. You can do real damage higher than your sim. It's just based on scenarios. So the important section is right here, is your scale factors. So these are how much each stat weighs. And you'll notice that this comes with a nice convenient pawn string. So if you have pawn downloaded in the game, you want to copy this whole section here, make sure you include the brackets, go into your World of Warcraft, open up pawn, and you would go into value, you'd go into scale, and you would go import, and you would paste right in this scale here. I'm not going to do this because I've already done this, but we go import, paste, and then you hit OK, and it will add that. Now you'll notice I have 3. This is the default strings that I got from Icy Veins that I've been using throughout the expansion. This is my current single target sim and its stats weights, and then this is my 3 target sim, and I will show you that in a second. So what you do So these are all the stats for my single target. So this is these are the stats I want to prioritize when I'm doing single target damage, which you guys already know. Weapon damage, mastery, agility, haste, crit, versatility. We talked about that in almost every video I've done. Now this report gives you a lot of really cool things. It shows you, what does the most damage per execute time. So wind burst obviously is really strong. Mark shot is strong. We talked about trying to fit those in all the time. Barrage and aim shot are strong. This shows the breakdown of my damage, so I do about 1% extra damage because of one of my traits. My neck gives me another 1%. My potions give me about 4%. Yeah, so it shows you relatively how the fight is supposed to go here. You'll see in a single target fight, I should do really good at the beginning. There should be a lull in the middle, and then I should do really good at the end. You can actually learn a lot from these. I'll do a separate video about how to interpret these reports, because there's actually a lot of information you can get from them. But for now, we're going to stick with the stats. So run the test, grab this pawn string, put it into your add-on, and you're good to go. Now, all we have to do, if we want to do more targets, is we'll go back here. For fight style, I'm going to go light movement. So this is, I consider light movement to be kind of like Illigith, maybe Dragons of Nightmare. You're not doing a whole lot. I'm going to change the targets to 3. They're all going to be raid bosses, so this is what I'm going to be looking for if I have 3 or more targets. And so we change the movement, we change the number. All we have to do is we just hit re-simulate. Well, simulate. It's going to go through the same steps, except this time it's going to calculate how much damage you should be doing if you're attacking 3 boss level targets. And the reason I do this simulation is because the stats you're going to notice are slightly different. So the more enemies you add, the more changes in your stat priority. So you'll notice for multi-target that my crit rating will be a little bit higher than it was for my single target, because crit rating is better for AoE. Along the same lines, you'll notice haste will go down a little bit, because haste isn't as important for AoEing, but you won't notice a big shift. Now, one thing I should mention here is it's good to sim your stats every time you change a piece of gear, but I know sometimes that's not always possible, or this can be time consuming, but you want to aim for every 1 to 3 pieces of gear you replace, you want to resim, because at certain percentages, your stats will start to fluctuate. Like, I know when you hit about 16 or 17% haste, it starts to become more equal to crit. So basically every time, if you can upgrade, every time you upgrade, you want to run another simulation. But if you don't have that much time and you're not really that dedicated, I would try to at least do it every 3 times you upgrade. So this is how much damage I should be doing against 3 targets. It's 446,000. The stats are the same here. You'll notice that the crit rating has gone up. It's actually more comparable to agility. Agility has gone down below haste, so if I were to do this, I would take these pawn strings here, and I would put them in as Winter Soldier 3T, which stands for 3 targets. And you can have as many of these strings as you want. So let me show you what this looks like when you equip it on a piece of gear. So I got this trinket recently. I'll show you. It's better for 3 targets than it is for single target. Actually, it's a bad example because we said not to look at trinkets, right? So here's a good ring I got. And you'll notice that this ring is actually way better for single target than it is for 3 targets. If you're really hardcore, you can keep separate gear, but just know that this ring is the best ring I have in my bag. That's why it says best. And I make my judgments off of if those are both upgrades. So here's an example. I have this pair of gloves, which is supposedly better for 3 targets, but not an upgrade for single target. I haven't really decided what I want to do with these yet. They're not very good stat-wise. I might end up disenchanting them, but at least this way I have that choice. So you have the 3 different strings. You can set as many bosses as you want. You can have a string. You can have a pawn string for 1 target, 2 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets. You can go as much as you want. But I like to do 1 target, 3 targets, and then the Azure marksmanship is just like a general guideline. And that's all there is. So that'll really help you out with choosing your gear. If you stay up to date on these sims and these pawn strings, when you get gear from a raid like this, say, you'll be able to just scroll over it and know instantly whether or not it should be an upgrade for you. And if you keep on top of the sims, you'll know precisely what stats you need, and that way it's way more accurate than just the base Azure marksmanship. So hopefully you guys find this useful. As always, enjoy the no dubstep, and if you like the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And happy hunting, guys.